Welcome to Lesson 5, Inner Character Development. The mindset affirmation for this lesson is my inner character is important. Okay, so in this lesson, I'm going to talk a little bit about some resources that I will be suggesting in holistic health options and other mindset training. Okay? Before we really get into it and recap the previous lesson, what I really wanted to say actually in the beginning of this series that I should have mentioned before is that I want to talk about something called triggering, which I actually had never thought of, or I guess I had never heard of this word put necessarily in this way, but triggering. Let me give you an example. If you find yourself getting upset at something I say, or anybody else for that matter, I want you to actually think about this, that this could be a blessing in disguise. Okay, so look inside yourself and ask yourself why you're getting upset. If whatever the person is saying, if it doesn't resonate with you, why would you even, why would it even bother you? Think about it from that perspective, especially when it comes to bullying. We've all heard about those sorts of things. And it wasn't bullying, but I do have from my parent, my dad, for those of you who haven't heard that story of being called stupid, right? And that was parent that I respected. So for that totally hit me at my core and stuck with me for a very long time. And that's where I had those temporary running away, wanting to die sort of thoughts. So that's kind of where my story begins, maybe about 12 or 13. Okay, so I want to give you that example of just that is how to describe the triggering. That's something that can happen. Another example would be a friend. I didn't understand it at the time, but a friend that I had when I was working, who's about 20 years older than me, would say that when I said, or if there was something that I didn't like about somebody else, it was something that I didn't like in myself. And I would get irritated and annoyed when he said that because I really didn't know what he meant. But once you start learning about personal growth sorts of things, you may come across reading some things about how people are mirror images of each other. And so that is for another show. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up because that happens to all of us. But I really do feel it is a blessing in disguise. Okay, so I want to share that with you. So, recapping the previous lesson, I basically had you write down what you feel, or hope you wrote it down. You feel you are worth being paid based on your talents and skills and things you could learn. Okay, so I want you to keep that with you or post it up or consider it a goal that you have for yourself. Of course, also depending on the lifestyle that you want to have, you may have also included that in there. Okay, so the point is, though, in that episode, I failed to mention something else that is important to hear out loud. Okay, I mentioned about us feeling our worth from the outside, right? If you want to say expecting it, or we think or we believe it comes from outside of ourselves. And so I mentioned that more than likely, a lot of us have thought that it comes from a person, a mate, right? Finding a significant other, soulmate, whatever you want to call it, which we have many of. It could also be having a child, right? Some people think that by having a child, it will make them feel loved. They have something to love, all of these sorts of things. People have kids for different reasons. Okay, so also other outside sources are the material possessions, like a large house, whatever that means to you, outrageously large house, tons of cars, a fat diamond ring, all of these sorts of things, material possessions. Okay, so owning these things or having these things makes us feel worthy. We are worth something. We have these things. But also what this can lead to, right, is when we have these things, we think these things are going to make us permanently happy, which happiness has to be sustained and it is up and down. So it is not a final destination. as I have thought before. And again, that is for another show. So that's where all of that sort of stuff becomes confusing to us, and why some of us have issues with our worth. Okay, we think that it comes from outside. So when we talk about self-love and working on ourselves, we have not been shown that there is any value in that, right? Because if you watch in a lot of movies, and in my time frame in the 80s, and who knows beforehand, nobody cared, right? To say it's what's inside that counts, is all just a funny little thing that a lot of us have felt that no, it doesn't really matter, because our physical image and being desirable and sexy, that's what anybody gives a care about. Okay, so hopefully I explained that pretty well. So now we are going to talk about inner character development again. Part of the path in leadership and in your professional and personal lives. Okay, so in working on this, it would be, again, good idea to have a piece of paper looking and assessing your skills, talents, and strengths, weaknesses. What could you learn to work on to advance yourself? What could help you be a better first responder? Are there any fears that hold you back from being at your best? Okay, I want you to think about these sorts of things. Now, assessing, definitely these things can be, I want you to also keep an open mind as a first responder. You probably want to know how you can apply this, but that will be for another time. That once you find a mentor and those specific to your industry, they'll be able better to help you, because I can tell you right now, okay, in how being a leader, how a lot of this stuff is going to help you. For example, are you a good listener, speaker, writer? Are you a people person? Are you good at sales? Are you a quick learner? Okay, say you said no to all those things. They can be learned. Okay, I am an example of that, because I was always an introvert, and I never even would have guessed that I would become the person that I am now, which is a result of having my own business and basically forcing myself to be extroverted because I saw the potential of business. And I just made myself, and I just started talking to people and just acting like myself. I just had a different, I guess, approach to it. And so, yes, it can be learned. Social skills can be learned and all of that. So do not fear becoming extroverted. You can adapt it and make it to your own way, whatever it is, because I would have said back then as well, too, that's just not me. Okay? So think about those things. Listener, speaker, writer, people person, sales. Are you a quick learner? Are you humorous? Are you funny? Now, have you looked at healing some personal life struggles that keep you stuck from moving forward in your life? How would healing them help you so that you can help others? Long story short, all that I'm going to say is yes, I have many examples to give you of healing and personal struggles, and I've had several of them. And something that can happen is, for example, if you are crying over certain situations and you just don't want to cry anymore. Crying is, yes, an emotional release, and it can definitely relieve a lot of things and all of that. But if it's excessive and you don't want to do it anymore, there are ways to heal with that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about right now the options that actually go outside of talk therapy. Talking doesn't work for everyone. Sometimes they actually cannot speak. They don't want to. It's painful for them, and or they don't want to. Whatever the reason is, there's a number of reasons, but there are so many therapies out there that I would talk that a lot of the things I talk about are in Eastern medicine. Come from Eastern medicine. I believe in both Western and Eastern medicine. And or just other different sorts of, countries, cultures, different things. You've probably heard of, especially with first responders, EMDR. There's also something called brain spotting that I know worked for a firefighter that I've known. He's in his 40s now, and that helped him a lot with a divorce that he was going through. And speaking of that, he was crying every day for 2 years, he told me. So I definitely want to look into that just to let people know about. There's something called Reiki, you may have heard before, which is energy work. And there are a lot of other therapies, like I said, out there from Native American culture, from the Thai culture, different things that help cleanse you of any negative energy and different things that are actually so when you have any sort of trauma, it actually gets stored in the body, in the cells, and sometimes we need to expel them other than words. So you might already be doing talk therapy with somebody, but the energy work and the other types of healing work are going to further help heal those areas, right? If you would describe them as painful, or say for instance you were stuck in those bad memories, you would call them bad memories. There are different things they can do to help you create new memories, new positive ones. Okay? So, moving on, when it comes also to leadership, there are so many different tests out there. I'm just going to bring up color personality tests. I know again, there are a lot of other choices out there that are actually very fun that will help assess, again, your strengths and weaknesses and help you uncover and discover those things about you and yourself to be a better leader. Okay, of course, I'm going to recommend astrology, which is actually very scientific. It's very overwhelming when I try to dive into it. But when I have had readings, it's amazing how much it ends up showing you about yourself. Even me, I already knew things about myself, but the astrology just takes it to a whole nother level. Okay, these sorts of things are becoming more in the mainstream. So if you're a little bit more hesitant about learning about them, this new generation of my audience, I think you all are a lot more open to this kind of stuff and crystals because I've been talking to a lot of you out there and are already doing yoga and meditation. So this is just another level of helping you understand, again, yourself and being a leader. So, compassion, this is another thing. Not everybody has it, but you can learn. Okay, and that is a good way of kind of explaining it because it can get confused with empathy, is basically putting yourself in someone else's shoes, right? So, an example for me, when I go to my workout training class in my self defense stuff, I will train with anybody. I love it. And so, beginner or not, or whatever it is, I always ask them if they are open to suggestions. Or, if I see, I ask them their experience level and, ask them even if I can just help them because sometimes they can injure themselves, right? If they're doing it actually an incorrect way. So I always ask that, and I definitely will meet people wherever they are at, training that wise, or with coaching or whatever it is that I'm doing. Okay, so going to the end closing, how could you make yourself unique in the industry? Is it everything that I just talked about before? Are those some different ways that would help you? You could also perhaps, listen to some different guests from my podcast that are from the music industry. We talk a lot about mindset. For example, if you haven't listened yet, the two punk rock pioneers growing up that helped me during that time, Ian MacKaye and Henry Rollins, they both helped me a lot during that time since that was helped set my foundation in my rural Pennsylvania town. That was my tribe of people. And so another episode would be Maintaining the Mindset of a Champion with Tony Lopez. Oh, by the way, the Ian and the Henry episode, they're best friends, but those are two separate episodes, okay? So you can go look for them. So Tony Lopez, Coach Chuck Hammond, who was good friends, of course, with the notorious Muhammad Ali. We talk about belief in self. That's also, of course, another one of my favorites. And my main website, rockyourlifewithnorafinch.com, you can see everything there, but it won't have my video shows. My video shows with first responders and veterans and stuff, that's on YouTube, okay? And that's under my branded Rock Your Life with Nora Finch. So my main website, iTunes, Pandora, and Spotify for just the audio shows. So now, closing, the self love exercise I wanted you to do, I'm keeping it really simple because we already talked about some things that I wanted you to work on in being unique in the industry and helping really assess that area is moving forward and into the other lessons, writing down some ways you can give more love to yourself. I know it sounds really simple and stupid, right? To be like, okay, what do I got to do now, Nora? Lame thing. Okay, it's really simple. This is like so simple, I think. You have no reason to not do it. Roll over on your back when you wake up. If you don't sleep like that, roll over on your back, and I want to put you to put your hand to your heart and really just sit with yourself, do an affirmation, talk to yourself, whatever it is, giving gratitude, how can you serve others today? How can you serve yourself? How can you love yourself today? Um, those sorts of things. I'm gonna give you whatever resonates with you. Okay, I'm just giving you suggestions. What you could also do at the same time, because the next little thing I was gonna give a task for you to do is go buy a weighted blanket, which I actually only recommend 5 pounds for myself because I can't lift the goddamn thing up if it's any heavier, and that will knock you out. And I know a lot of you first responders, I am not, but I've had sleep issues most of my life up until about the past 10 years, maybe. So, with you going from 0 to 100, your adrenals are probably more than likely shot. Uh, but adrenals, that is something that we haven't heard about or talked about, or we don't hear talked about, but that is something to go check out. And there's actually supplements. So, because you're always so up and down, I don't know that there's a way to necessarily regulate them, but I'm sure if you go check them out, it will help you. And simply, simple other things, making your own food or eating real food. It sounds like a lot of what I've seen a lot of firefighters are doing. You guys are eating real food instead of like tons of protein bars or junk food. But, just having a good meal, staying off your phone while you're eating, chewing your food slowly. It's so simple, right? And making sure, of course, with the water consumption, which is a daily thing for me that I have to continue to remind myself because I'm drinking so much damn jasmine tea all the time. So, I know this is another task. This is the final one. What you love about yourself. This isn't about being arrogant. I just want you to put on a piece of paper or at least think in your mind like what you love about yourself. And that's physical and inside, okay? Because everybody has something to love that is lovable and that is, just existing, okay? Just the fact that you exist is that I can love you. So if you are embarrassed or if you just don't know, I'm saying there's nothing to be embarrassed about, but if you don't really know what you love about yourself, ask somebody. And you could just, and as far as not being embarrassed, just ask them what they see in you. What's something positive you see about me? I'm working on this homework project for this mini lesson course by Nora. Yeah, you don't even have to say that. Okay, right. You might already get made fun of. But who cares, right? Okay, so I want you to work on that and your physical image. This is important to put in there because since a lot of us face these sorts of things, including myself, and that was my biggest issue growing up, right? Comparing myself to what I saw on TV. What was a beautiful woman? I don't look like that. I didn't like my hips and my nose and my neck and didn't feel white enough and all this stuff that sounds so stupid now at my age. That's like, why did I even have to focus on it? But again, for me, it was cultural experience of just that's what everybody wants and sees, and that's what makes you desirable, and just anyway. So I want you to write something about your physical physique that you like. And for me, I just looked at also those things that what what made me unique. I just had to. That's also why I love scars so much and things like that. I think it gives us character and, again, what makes us unique? Gaps in gaps in people's teeth and stuff like that. So, whatever, if you want to say I'm weird over that kind of stuff. Okay, this was a little bit longer than I thought, but I really wanted to really explain some different things there to you. And I will go ahead and close this episode, and I will see you in lesson 6.